Hello and welcome to today's live chat. It's about a minute too early. I've come on too early, but anyway. So what I would like to do is to do a little bit of an update on the conflict in Ukraine. As you can see, I'm now back in Poland. If you saw where I was living before, you might recognize it. Only I've turned the table around, so don't have the sun in my eyes. And what I'd like to do is to try and do something sort of regularly on this subject. I'm working on two videos, one of which is related to the conflict. The first one's about the Moskva, the ship that was sunk, and I shouldn't really have. I should have done it by now because it's not going to be newsworthy by the time I actually do get the video finished. Then no doubt YouTube will do some kind of a stop on it, as they sometimes do. There was a thing I did on cluster bombs, and I got one of these rather ridiculous claims was made against it. But the thing is, it took a month for it to go through. By the time I published it, it was no really longer as newsworthy and relevant. I don't know what these news channels do. Or maybe because they've just got so many viewers that YouTube doesn't dare sort of censor them. Anyway, that little bit apart, I thought what we could do today. Anyway, got any questions about anything? Do put them in the questions. And so hello to everybody's here so far. And I was in Ukraine, so I'm back now, but I will be going back to Ukraine probably beginning of next month. I haven't decided when yet. So it's been within 2 months of this conflict. Anybody who would have thought it happened 2 months ago that Ukraine would have actually held out so long, I would never have thought that this could have helped. This would have happened. I did say to a friend of mine the day before the invasion, "Oh, don't worry, there's no chance that Putin's going to invade." So that were my words. I couldn't believe it, and to me, as far as I was concerned, as with all dictators, that what they need is to have something to show success. They need to portray strength and success. A dictator can't turn around and say, "Yeah, well, I think we messed that one up." They can't do it. It's got to be one success after another after another. So in the case of Ukraine, I thought it would claim that success as being the occupation of the Donetsk and Lugansk areas, which were then more or less occupied by Russia anyway. So I thought that would be what it would claim. Then, then Putin said he wanted, the only thing he would accept is a complete surrender of all of Ukraine. And then we seem to get the indications that things are different. Peskov said about 10 days ago or something, was with, I think, Sky News. He indicated, though he didn't say this directly, he indicated that the occupation of the former Donetsk and Lugansk oblast, or not the former, but because it was the Ukrainian oblast. An oblast is like a county or a administrative area. It's bigger than a county, really. So the administrative area, region, and that would be that would be sufficient. So he said that, for example, Mariupol is part of the Donetsk oblast, which it is. Only that a third of the Donetsk Oblast is under Russian occupation, or under the Donetsk People's Republic. And so it would seem that the plan is to have these pseudo referendums, sort of thing that Hitler did as well. Hitler had a referendum in Austria in April 1938. And with 99.1% of the population in favor of the union with Nazi Germany, totally absurd. Why didn't you just say 60%? People might have believed him. And as they did, for example, the today's Nazis, Putin's lot, they did in Crimea, where they produced the result of, what was it, 96.5, I can't remember exactly what it was now, percent in favour, and with a turnout in Sevastopol of 120%. Just shows how keen they were to get into, to come into parts of Russia. Anyway, so Christoph writes, state secrets are the answer to this, which indicates why WikiLeaks is a criminal enterprise. I doubt that they could see it. Yeah, I've always thought that WikiLeaks was just part of Kremlin propaganda as well. I know that there's some things in it which are true as well, but I think the two are, history will show WikiLeaks to have been largely false, I believe. Anyway, so the where we're at now is, in my opinion, is that this war will go on, and it will enter the stage of attrition. There's one thing I did see in Ukraine, which to me utterly stood out, was the fact the Ukrainian army, which is utterly brilliant in defense, it would seem, is not much. It probably isn't much good in attack. And the reason I think it's not much good in attack is not based on experience, because there hasn't been any attacks, but it just clearly it's totally logistically not up to it, and there's this incredible administration. Our old government's like plenty of pen pushers doing useless work in offices, but the Ukraine seems to take this to utter extremes. I mean, so does Russia, but maybe this is just a hangover from the Soviet Union. But I see this with people, for example, who've gone, whereas Iron Claw still waiting. Yeah, okay, right. Well, Iron will back me up on this one. People who went there, I know people who've been in Ukraine now since the beginning of March. So it's, 6-7 weeks, and they still hang around in apartments waiting to be called up. Now, some of them are quite lucky because they have people offering, say, do you need any money to get any food? And other people are not so lucky, and they're stuck in an apartment with 10 other people in the same room, and they have to go and do their own shopping. So this, they've got, and these are really, I mean, I have seen people with really useful military specializations who are just hanging around, so doing nothing. And so this is anyway, so I think it's just largely due to the administration. Now, I mean, I do appreciate, and I did say this in other things, you've got all of these volunteers just coming over, and they don't know what to do with them, and the Ukrainian embassies are totally useless because they don't know what to do with these people. I mean, that's understandable. I mean, I do appreciate that the president made this. He's forming a legion, and he wasn't rethinking it. He wasn't thinking it through properly when he said it, which is fair enough. He might have just said it off the cuff. He said, "Oh, we'll just start a legion. That's a good idea." But when people started taking him seriously, and maybe he thought, "Oh, well, they should be able to get the cogs in motion and all the rest of it," but they can't because of the administration and all the rest of it. Now, I spoke to somebody, relatively high up in the military administration. He said, "Well, we've got other things to do." I appreciate you've got other things to do, but if you actually ask for these people to go there, then at least try and use them. Or there's plenty of people who would actually do that for them. I mean, I've said if he wants people to go on collecting people in Poland, I can do it. And then there's several other people who do the same thing. But anyway, now I do know where to put the people, but no thanks to the official Ukrainian administration. For those I sent early, the earliest ones are sort of still hanging around doing nothing. I'm sorry, not much. You have to sort of come back to me, and I'll try and sort that one out. Sorry. Anyway, I'll just answer one or two questions. Now, Tuna asks, do I think that Ukraine has the resources to totally repel the invasion? Right. Now I'm going to sort of be legalistic with that question and answer it in a lawyer's way, because I think it has the resources, or it will get the resources to repel future attacks. But if it's the question, I think the question is deeper than that. I think the question is, do I think that Ukraine has the resources to push, to liberate those occupied areas? I would say it doesn't. It probably doesn't. I think that certain areas can be liberated. I mean, there's certainly some areas of the Russian front, which to me seem to be, you can actually, an open source information, you can find positions of the Russian troops and the amount of people that are there. You can get it on Twitter. There's somebody called Halop people, I forgot the name of it, Halop Jalopo of the West or something like that, and who publishes maps, and you can see the where the units and the strength and all the rest of it. So I think I would say in the furthest west advances on the coast, the Russians look pretty weak, and not only that, it's going to be difficult to supply them along routes through Crimea over one bridge. There's 5 roads between Crimea and the Ukrainian mainland, but there's only 2 major roads in them. So that's a very weak transport system, and from the coast, it's not. That's very through hostile, hundreds of kilometers of hostile. That's not a very good way of keeping things up. So I would say that there is not a, whereas Ukraine doesn't have the resources to thoroughly, I would expect in the Kherson area, that is too, so where Crimea is here and it's sort of a bit to the west of there, I would expect the Russians to be thrown back. And I would also think it's possible to actually even throw them back to the 2014 border, 2015 border, the border between the in the area of Crimea. That might be possible, Kherson Oblast. But in the areas of the Donbass and the land that's been captured along the Azov Sea, I think that might end up in Russian hands long term. Anyway, so Christoph says that Bryansk was a derailment of a trainload of tanks. I didn't know that. I know there was a fire at the Bryansk oil terminal, but I didn't know. I didn't know it was a derailment of a trainload of tanks. Obviously, the tank is pretty tough. It's not like a trainload of camper vans being derailed, which wouldn't do the camper vans much good. The tank, I presume, would still be working once it'd been put on. But anyway, it's a nice little touch. The derailing the tanks, it'll delay them getting there. So Emmy asked, how is my time in Ukraine? Am I still there? No, I've left Ukraine, but I will be going back to Ukraine in May. And okay. Ion's in now. Ion is in. I know where he is, but I don't know if I can. Who he wants to say, he'll say. He says he's sitting around mostly, but they are doing some training. Well, that's something. That's good. So at least they're being used, which I think is important. Now, I think if people are being sent, are now in the forward areas in Western or Central Ukraine, then I expect them to be training hard. But then forward areas, if they're in Kiev or even further east, then I would not expect to be training hard, but actually doing some training. So they don't training hard, so they're exhausting themselves. Right. Do I think that Moldova's on Putin's list via Odessa and Transnistria? Writes Colin. Yes, I do. I think Moldova is in a situation now that it should finish off Transnistria. This is a dagger pointed at it. Now, if it doesn't do anything, I mean, at the moment there are Russian troops in Transnistria, but they can't be resupplied. I don't suppose they're taking planes in. If they are taking planes in, then the planes are at risk of being shot down. So I don't know the full military situation. I know that there was a serious amount of Russian equipment in Transnistria, but I really think that Moldova ought to finish them off now while it still can. And because if it leaves them there, it's a dagger pointed at it, and that will just. We've seen what happens when Russian troops are left based in Ukraine, in as they were in Sevastopol in 2014, as they have been now in Donetsk and Lugansk. That is Moldova is seriously at risk. Yeah, Tuna writes that they should try and take up the bridge to Crimea. A friend of mine thought of this one at the end of February, and I mean it's an obvious target. And yes, but I did point out at the time I don't think this is such an easy thing to hit. And if you're talking of a commando raid or something like that, then they'll probably take up far more organisation than it would to actually repair the thing, unless they could actually sort of take out a serious amount of the bridge. Putting in emergency things over bridges. Actually, I've done that a couple of times, and I did it a couple of times when I was in the army. It's not that difficult, and it doesn't take that much time. Okay, yeah, it could take up a couple of spans, but as long as the thing wasn't structurally, they could put these emergency pontoon type structures over the top, not a pontoon because the pontoons lie on the bridge, but these structures put over pontoons. So that would, although of course it would slow down the traffic. They can't be whizzing across as they do now. And anyway, Oinclaws trying to order body armor and helmets. Yes, the body armor and helmets are needed there. And there is a problem. This is one of the problems with the Ukrainian administration, because as I've seen, or been led to believe, is that they get a pile of it from somewhere and they'll just dump it off at one spot. And so everybody there gets like 2 or 3 sets of body armor when other people don't get any. I would think that body armor, for some, okay, I'm too old now, but for people like certainly over 40, possibly have never used body armor, and to actually use it, I personally, if I had the choice, do you want body armor or don't you? If I were in a defensive position, I'd say yes, but if I was moving, I'd say no, because you can. The thing with the body armor is it's really going to slow you down. I tried it on this month. I tried it on, and I mean, it's all like it was bad enough to just standing there and putting this stuff on and walking around with it on. If I had to run with that stuff on with us together with whatever it is on the back, I don't think that'll be very much a very good state in that. Anyway, Dave writes, nuclear weapons are crazy expensive to maintain. Do you think the state of Russian nuclear weapons is as bad as their conventional weapons? I would have thought so, yes. The thing that one of the problems with the Russian military is that it's the corruption. And what's happening and did happen was the parts would be stolen, or they'd be just sent off somewhere else, and then orders are put in. So you say, right, for example, just something easy and obvious, right? We went down to the range and we fired off, I don't know, 10,000 rounds of ammunition or something like that. And so they put in an order. I said, well, we do this once a month, so we'll need 120,000 rounds of ammunition just to make up what we fired off. The thing is, they probably went to the range once and fired off 5,000. The rest of it has found its way onto the black market or being, and not being in the hands of necessarily criminals, but it could end up in other hands of other regimes and being exported. And that is clearly what is happening. And Russia is a kleptocracy. The people who are a victim of the Putin systems, I keep repeating, are the first victims, are the Russian people. It should be the Russian people who are rebelling. This war is aimed above all at the Russian people, not at the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are the victims on the way. This was to stop the Russian people revolting. That's the whole point of it. And so with all this theft and all the rest of it that goes on. Now the thing is, with nuclear weapons, the idea it's a bit more. I doubt that there is the theft which is involved with the conventional stuff. I mean, obviously nobody's going to, not necessarily obviously, but hopefully nobody's actually stealing nuclear components and then putting them onto the market. But the byproducts and all the rest of it, I don't really see what would be sold. So I assume that they have been kept in better condition, but I do not know. And so that's just, I can't say. I don't know anything about nuclear weapons. I do know a little bit about the economy. To give another example, actually, about theft, and this is going back to Soviet days, when, for example, it would often be the case that they couldn't use their equipment because it lacked things such as de-icer. And de-icer would then, it would be sent to the military, and then it would find its way onto the into the normal market, because people need de-icer to get the cars going in the morning and this type of thing. So that obviously had more value to them. And this was very, very common in the Soviet Union. Now, for example, what we can see here in this invasion, they've lacked things like fuel, they've lacked things like tires, they've lacked things like food. All of that probably found its way onto the normal market. So that really wouldn't surprise me. Another thing, and this is something I know now from personal experience, or not my personal, but people I've known, is that in Russia there's a major problem with substance abuse, with drugs, which are coming from the army. So the army, obviously, supplies things like morphine, you'd hope that, or other pain-relieving drugs or whatever it is. But this is constantly, there's no controls over it, so it finds its way onto the streets and things of this nature, and it's sold. And this is all part of the criminal nature of the Putin regime. So I hope I've answered that question. So anyway, Emir says he had a nice meal in the mosque, and you can eat for free there. Custom meal during Ramadan, free bread in the bakery around the corner. Well, that's something worth remembering. Should I be in Emir's place? In Bosnia, I think. Is it Bosnia? Where Emir lives during Ramadan. And so it just goes to prove that there's no such thing as a free lunch. Yeah, well, Dave, during Ramadan, at lunch, you can eat as much as... No, hang on. I've told you the joke wrong. I'm going to try that joke again later, because obviously you don't eat during Ramadan. It's like the Yom Kippur buffet. You eat as much as... The only thing you have to pay for is your bed. Sorry, I'll have to come back with that joke. I have to think of a bit better. Anyway, oh, sorry, there was a point there. I went too fast. And anyway, Tuna says that he doubts that Russia has the resources to maintain the nuclear arsenal. And the ones in the UK are actually serviced at a regular basis at Aldermaston, where the I mean, it's a very, having nuclear weapons is extremely expensive. And I did a video on the Budapest Memorandum, why Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons complete. As it turned out, it gave it up for security guarantees. These guarantees were given by Russia, the United States, United Kingdom. Russia, it was signed by Sergei Lavrov, who's currently the foreign minister, He signed them in, what was it, 26 years ago, 27 years ago. And he now, he is effectively Putin's number two in invading Ukraine. He himself signed it. He can't say he didn't know what was signing, was a different government or something like that. He signed, just cannot believe what these characters actually say. And all right, so Iron, who is in Kiev, is using the time here to review manuals, study Ukrainian, talk to the locals, help any organizations. And there's lots of stuff he brought with him he didn't need to bring. Yes, I've heard that from many people. I've helped people carry bags as well. Right, so Dave points out it costs $1 million a year just to maintain one nuke in the United States. Presume that's one nuclear warhead, so there's several warheads on each missile. And okay, so the Christoph writes, the bridge gives the Russians an escape route from Crimea. Moldova can do a deal with Ukraine because Transnistria was part of Ukraine. Romania might be willing to help. Yeah, maybe. I presume the Moldovan army isn't up to much. I don't personally know, but I'll find out. And it could be, of course, that if the Russian army were which is based in Transnistria, were strong enough, I'm sure it would have attacked the rest of Moldova by now. Although it was said to be on the move in trying to capture Odessa. It was the plan was for it to move, but because the Russians were held up in Mykolaiv, then it didn't move at all. That is my understanding. Right, Colin says, do I think that Putin has finished in Syria? No, I don't. I think in Syria it's exactly the same situation. You've got a dictatorship. It's a dictatorship which has been in the same family since 1963, is it? I can't quite remember. Ba'ath seized power. And so this is the son of the person who seized power. The people in Syria aren't too pleased in general with this dictatorship, and obviously I do appreciate that by around 2015 you had three sides. So you had the dictatorship, you had the sort of the Free Syrian Alliance, and you had the ISIS, and the ISIS which formed its own state in Syria and Iraq. So I can't see ISIS. I'm sure ISIS has always got its old cells hanging around. And as for the people, the Syrian people, I'm sure they would like to get rid of the dictatorship if they could. But so as long as they're likely to do something, then there is Putin's going to stay in Syria. It's not something which will go away. So right, Emir says that you see these daily reports of Russian Air Force bombing oil depots, ammunition depots, military headquarters, army groupings, equipment. Yes, they're bombing stuff all the time, and another thing we've seen is that now we're simply bombing railway lines more as well. And I've spoken to a number of people who live alongside railway lines, yeah, I can understand why they're actually hitting them. In the Second World War, we saw that, particularly in the run-up to the invasion of France in 1944, so that we get the marshalling areas where several lines came in together, they would be pounded. Now, one of the questions that people say to me is, well, why weren't the lines to Auschwitz bombed? And my argument is this at the time was a pointless exercise, because they could bomb the lines, but the lines are replaced very, very quickly. In fact, the lines would have been replaced before the planes even got back. But that's assuming they could even hit them. And even today, with precision-guided weapons, it's be very difficult to actually hit a railway line. Maybe a marshalling area that would be more. That's easier. Lines are placed down. A person actually lived with who escaped from a death camp at Sobibor. He said that one night the guards took them out and they actually stole lines which had been waiting for some repairs to be done. The thing with a railway line is that it's the hard bit about making railway lines is doing the embankments, the earthworks. So if they could knock out a railway line, but there'll be new tracks down there pretty quickly. Obviously, these days, you can, so I suppose, make more constant attacks. It's not like it was during the Second World War. Anyway, Dave writes that nuclear weapons are incredibly fickle things. They have to be perfect. It's not 100% serviceable, just fizzle rather than explode. And there are super critical things, excuse the pun. Right. So if I suppose there is a risk if a nuclear weapon is fired that it could explode when it's actually on before it actually takes off. I presume that is possible. I mean, I did actually do training for explosives. I'm not nuclear stuff, of course, but so you've got sort of explosion, you've got sort of a detonator or a charge, so that goes through there. It might actually make a circuit, or it could be through kinetic energy, which causes the thing to explode. And which is separate from the rest of it. There's the rest of it, the booster part. But I mean, if this thing here catches fire, it could sort of set the charge off, and bang, the thing blows up in the silo, and it takes all the nuclear weapons with it. On something I did, I found, it's there, but on Google Maps, there's nuclear silos based near Mansk, which I actually found. I didn't keep the picture. I should have done. It's quite clear what it is. So it's not secret or anything. Sorry, it's not just didn't sort of find it. It was there openly. But the location of these things is known, as the one is in the biggest one in the United States, for example. It's known. So there's 1,200 Russian peacekeepers in, presumably, right, Christoph, presumably that's in Transnistria. And so anyway, so Ian is going to Kiev on Friday, and Marco points out very good that we're not fighting Russia. Although we are giving the supplies to do so. And anyway, Dave says nuclear weapons will not explode prematurely unless the timing system malfunctions and fires prematurely. Almost impossible. Well, I don't know. Maybe it is. Is that right? And they're not like conventional explosives. Yeah, well, they probably aren't. So anyway, good. Right. So I think what I'll do is I'll possibly now leave it at this point. But thanks to those of you who've come in. And what I'll do is I'll try and put up something relatively regularly. I had these ideas of things I did want to actually go through, such as we're seeing the first war criminal. Sorry, not criminal. He hasn't been charged yet. So he's been charged, but he hasn't been found guilty. So he's suspected war criminal, I should have said. So first war crimes trial, which I think that's something I'll save that for a different time. As most of my channel is largely due to, I wouldn't say war crimes, because most of the things I deal with are crimes against civilians, and so these the people perpetrators of the Holocaust. And I've written 2 or 3 things recently about Soviet criminals as well, which haven't been published yet, but we'll get. And so, but I thought I got the paperwork out actually today. The paperwork's online. I got the online work out from the Ukrainian Justice Department, which deals with crimes committed by Russians, or war crimes as they're calling them. I'm very cautious about calling it something a war crime, because these are technical terms which may not necessarily be the case, and often something may be a civil crime, and it's I think calling something a war crime, lumping things in together. I mean, obviously stealing somebody's, if you're a Russian soldier and you go and steal somebody's fridge and then send it back to that is a war crime. I'm not trying to pretend anything else, because the fridge was taken under threat of killing the person if you didn't give up your fridge. So, and these are things which we've seen. Anyway, good. So I think I'll leave that one there for the moment. I'm currently doing 2 videos which I've failed to put together. Well, first on the Moskva, so a history of the Moskva ship which was sunk, and the second one is I started right. In fact, I finished the video, and then I learned something new, and so I thought I'll try and change it. So it's on the grandfather of Putin's grandfather, Putin. I thought there was one on his background as well. So thank you to everybody. Thanks to Colin, Tuna, Emir, Christopher, Dave, and Isa, and Annie, and everybody else who is in here on my other channel. For those interested in motorhomes, in 40 minutes time, there will be a there'll be a video about that. Yeah, on the Moskva incident, I've got to point out is I'm not going to do anything on the sinking of it, because I don't know enough about it. And there seems to be all sorts of things being said about it. So seeing as it's no longer newsworthy, we haven't got the excuse and of saying that, it hadn't been released, information hadn't been released. So it's I'd rather wait for that all to happen. Because one about the Snake Island, it was reported that the ship that got the message to go and copulate with itself was the Vasily Bykov, and it wasn't that ship. It was, now it said it was the Moskva, which is, at the time I thought it was more logical it was the Moskva, but anyway, I repeated what what was commonly believed. So thanks very much. Oh, and Ian, I didn't thank Ian, and just Lee as well. Lee, thanks very much for all you being here, and all the best for me in Poland. Bye.